Hey guys, this is Will here, and in this video, I would like to walk you through how I created this interior scene that you're looking at right now. Um, before I do any, if I before I say anything, I got a cold from last week, I think, and so I got a runny nose. So my pronunciation could be bit bad. I know it's already bad because I'm not American or English, but yeah, there could be a bit of mispronunciation during this walkthrough, but I hope you guys understand. So here we go, and also just to let you know, this is not a tutorial. Yes, this is not a tutorial, so there won't be any detailed process of how I exactly did the scene, like really detailed, like for example, like press this key to do this or press this function or some, like all these details. But I thought it is nice to just give you guys some rough idea and the process that I went through making this scene. So it's like a generalized tutorial. No, not tutorial, but generalized process looking ish. Speed modeling, time lapse. Think of as you prefer. Um, so I hope this video could help for anyone who already has some basic knowledge of Blender and who wants to start creating some interior scene with Blender. And I think it's pretty good just to give you guys some tips. Although I think it's a pretty vague tips, but yeah. So to begin with, I would like to share how I decided to do this interior scene. And before doing this scene, I used to make an interior scenes which were like half done, and like most of them were incomplete. And so I got frustrated like producing like the incompleted scenes like so on and on. So I decided to do something properly and just complete one scene um as completed. So I was looking for some sort of inspiration, and I came across this a photo uploaded in Twitter by a guy called Mickey Kim, and it was a scene where it was a hotel scene. I think he took a photo after he woke up, or I don't know, um, but it was a hotel, and strangely enough, the composition and lighting was pretty good, and I think there wasn't any like difficult furnitures or difficult um, properties that you know to be created by 3D modeling. So I decided, oh, that's a good practice for me just to do a 3D modeling with that scene. So I decided to not copy but get inspired and do something similar to that scene. But I tried to find a reference photo again because I didn't save the photo when I saw it, and I wasn't able to find it. So all this scene was off by my memory. But there is some similarities to the original picture, I think. But I would say it's not 100% similar or exactly duplicated. So now let's go into 3D modeling part. To begin with, I decided to create the general composition of the scene first, because composition is one of the most important thing. I think it's important when you're doing interior scene, because if your composition is wrong and you're midway through, it's you have to like shift the whole shape and the composition, alter a lot of things to do something that you want to do. So composition is one of the really most important thing I consider doing. So I always make sure the composition is perfect, not perfect, but good enough to add, good enough before I add any details into the scene and stuff like that. So right now I'm just adding walls and floors and windows panels, and after that I am adding a bed right now. The reason I start with the bed because the bed was one of the things that took up the most of the space of this interior scene. So it acts like a wall, although it's not a wall. So it is part of the composition. So I'm basically like
adding bits and pieces like that to the walls and the bed. And now once I'm done with the composition, I am now adding bit of details. Now this is the storage thing I placed in my interior scene, where you can store like utilities of hotel stuff. So that's the storage thing. Now, and after creating the storage thing, I decided to now alter bits and pieces like that and add more furnitures now. Um, but as you go along, you'll discover that I am constantly changing the composition as I go on, and because composition is the most important thing. And I don't think that furniture I'm doing right now is in the original photo, but I felt it's just nice just to put that thing there, just to fill up the space, empty space. Now I'm adding I'm twitching window panels, and now I'm changing the composition a bit. Now I'm just making the room slightly bigger than I originally planned. And now I'm adding more furniture in now. Now this is the couch, or a futon. I'm not sure. Maybe a couch. I'm adding a leg there, like the square legs, and just making like making the legs bigger, and adding a subdivide modifier to give more of the fabric and or like smooth shape, rounded edges. And now I'm working more on the back of the chair, back of the couch. Again, adding a subdivide modifier to that. And I think subdivide modifier is a really good thing that you can use to create more of the organic structures. But because it gives more of the more good control that you can use to create more realistic structures and shapes if you want to do something, if you want to create something smooth. So I'm switching bits and pieces like that, and make sure everything looks realistic and looks like a chair. And I'm adding more details and just twitching bits and pieces and just make it look more like a chair, and something that you can find in the hotel room. So once you're done with the chair, now I'm gonna add the tables. And I thought it's a good idea just to add a glass table, because glass table is something that you can find in a lot of luxury room and interior spaces. So I thought adding a glass table was a good idea. And now you can see I'm adding the legs of the glass table. I didn't use any fancy fancy functions like rotation things or anything. I just decided just to hand build it. I don't know, like manually create the legs, and I decided just to copy that, and then um, just copy and rotate it, like you can see from the image from the screen right now. Just copying it like that, and after copying that, I decided just to fill more space with more tables. So there you go, more table, more glass table. Yeah, that's a glass table as well. And so I decided to add more glass tables. So because glass is something that is, I think, is considered a luxury item in most luxury interior spaces, especially when you have a glass table. It's definitely a, I don't know, just the room looks more luxurious, I think. So I'm adding more glass tables, and excuse me. I'm fixing the composition at the moment. Right now, I'm just altering, tweaking the composition in a bit like that, to make because the composition is really important. Because if you get the composition wrong, it's the whole thing gonna be a mess. So now after that, I'm adding a few more chairs, and as you can see, adding furniture is not that difficult, because it's just like you're just modifying bits of um, each individual shapes together, and it's just like combination of different rectangles and few cylinders. After creating a chair, I decided it's a good idea just to put what do you call it, a lighting, a standing light. And as you can see, it's really simple. I just made it. I didn't put any really in-depth details or anything. I just made a square and a long cylinder, and that's it. Um, now it's time to go for more detail, like adding more like more utilities we can find in hotel room, like trays. Right now I'm creating a tray which holds the plates and the cups and stuff like that. And now that's the plates I'm making right now. And making the plate was not difficult. It's just like you make a cylinder and then start just modifying bits and pieces like that, and then altering a few shapes and stuff. Um, Now some people told me, you can why don't you just buy off an assets like that off from the internet? But buying an asset is a really good idea, but I think if you have a lot of time, I think it's a good practice just to do something, do some simple modeling. Because while you model, it gives you a good idea of how the shapes are formed. So I think buying an asset is a good idea as well, but I think it's a good idea to the professionals who is short of time. Um, so uh, so since I'm not a professional yet, oh maybe I am. Since I have a lot of time um to create this Blender scene, so I just decided just to make it. I decided to just have a good practice, just like creating every individual scene. And it is really good practice of because it's a simple stuff that you can make, and add like that. So once the cup is done, I decided to create this cylindrical I don't know what you call I don't know what you call them, but this aluminium water holder. Yeah, water holder. I'm not really sure what they're called, but you know, like few storage water storage where you can find in sports shops. I don't know. I decided to just put that um there, like right there next to the tray, and then I decided to create this random glass cylinder again, because glass is again a luxury item where you can find it in lots of luxury places. So I thought just like adding an odd glass shaped bottle just right in the middle of this tray thing, maybe it looks cool, maybe it looks bad, who knows? But I just decided it's a good idea just to put it there and see what happens. So I put it there, and I'm gonna add some more cups there here as well. And after that, I decided to add more cups again. Now this time a wine glass. Um, Before I go to anything else, and wine cups wasn't that hard as well. It's just tweaking, extruding cylinder shapes, and just creating, adding more details and subdividing to make it smooth, and then um, putting more vertices just to make it, more defined. Now, once the glass cup is done, I decided to make, like one of those the not wine holder, like one of the cups that where you drink vodka with it, like the huge cup where the rich people use. And after that, now this is the hard part. Now I decided to use a physics system to create the wrinkles and like the realistic cloth that you can find on the bed. Now, this took me a while because the rendering time was so long, and especially as you saw in this picture, I subdivided the sheet a lot of time to give more smooth curvature. And as you give more, as you subdivide more, the computer obviously gets slower. So I it was a it took me a while to create a good scene with this, but I think it was worth it. Um, so I decided to subdivide that thing. that bad mattress. And what I'm doing now, I'm sculpting bits and pieces right there and trying to give more of the wrinkles, and so it looks more realistic. After that, I'm adding a pillow and a cushion right now. That's a pillow. Again, I'm subdividing it because subdividing will create more of the smooth organic stuff. And then sculpting a bit right there, and I'm smoothing off, making more realistic. Because in real life, not there's no way a cushion is just like has a straight edge. That's impossible. So this little bits and pieces of detail where in the cushion is, I think, is something really important. So after I was done with the cushion, I decided to add more sheets of uh, add more bed sheets and use the physics model. And the reason I put the cushions underneath there is just to give more of the volumetric effect. Not volumetric as in like the gas system, but like gives more volume. Gives you know make the bed look more realistic. So I'm still working on the physics model right now because physics model is something that I don't really want to use because it takes a lot of time because my computer is not that good because it can't really keep up the pace. So it's gonna take a while just to render and like bake the the scene there as well. So now I am trying to do, again, as you can see, I'm trying to create this smooth sheet, but somehow I don't know why. What's the reason for this? But um, the sheet underneath wasn't working. The physics system wasn't working, so it took me a while to make it work again. And I changed the cushions to like a bit of the big bold pieces because the cushion that I used previously had too much detail in it. It didn't look much like a bed sheet. Didn't give the realistic result. Looks Now, as you can see, it looks pretty good as a bed, I think. But I decided to add bit more sheets, and which completely slowed my computer. Um, Now I'm altering bits and pieces like that just to give final detail to the scene, and now I'm working more on the physics. And now I'm just twitching bits and pieces like that, and just to give more final details to the scene. And I'm still trying to get the sheet underneath to work with but it was really hard because physics system is something that it doesn't really, I don't really understand that properly. Now, so I decided just to work on the composition and the camera angle before I go any further, because that just takes too much time, and I just decided just to see from it there. And now looking from the camera angle, it looks pretty good. The scene looks pretty neat, and you can see it has plenty of detail that it looks like a hotel room. I hope it looks like a hotel room, but it has enough furnitures and fills up the space, and the composition looks pretty good. And so I decided to. So it looks pretty good, and I'm keep trying to make the bed sheet underneath to work. Now both sheets are working for the bed, and now it looks pretty good. It looks a bit like a bed. Not in this angle, but I'm sure it looks pretty good in the camera angle. Um, Now after that, it's texture part. And texture part can be split into three main methods. And those threes are adding a diffuse color and adding a diffuse plus a different material, such as glass or glossy material. And the third one is adding a texture or image that you get it from like an internet or where you, or photography. And surprisingly enough, most of the materials that are allocated in this scene is diffuse, not like a fancy image or fancy texture that I got from internet. Um, I think the main reason is because you don't really need to put so much detail into materials for this scene, um, because diffuse color does its job good enough. And so as you can see, I'm just using the same property of diffuse material with just the color different. And for the of course I use like few materials which has textures in it. Like like for example, this texture is using a wooden texture to create this like wood effect that are in like the wood effect to the wall. And some of the textures are some of the materials I use here is like glass or metal or something like that. But most of the furniture, such as this curtain I'm making right now, is used just with a diffuse color. So I when I was doing interior scene when I was like a few days ago, I was like trying to find different materials for each every I thought I thought every materials should have a different properties, um, even though it's diffuse. But I realized that's not really necessary, eh, unless it really shows that it's not really fit into the scene, or it doesn't look realistic. Like right now, that chair is also used used just diffuse color. So and the floor is just a diffuse color, and the cushion that are I'm allocating right now is diffuse color. Even the cloth and the bed sheets are diffuse color. So there's not really, much of a detail added to texture as you think that I could have done. But I mean, it does its job perfectly. So we don't really. I thought I didn't really need to like put much more detail, unless if I want to do something more, I probably should have done. But for this, just for this, for creating this type of scene, I thought just adding a diffuse color was just fine. So yeah, now I'm just adding a gloss material and glass materials just to the plates, and like for example for this water holder, I'm just adding a metal aluminium material. So like those type of materials are yeah, you have to use um, like a metal material or like glass material or glossy material. But yeah, because with diffuse you can't produce those reflectiveness that glass or glossy material have. So like looking at the percentage of the material that I use in this scene, I would say I used about 10% textured material, like texture images I got from internet, and 20% like glass or glossy materials, and rest of them is just like diffuse, without any specific changes or anything like or to the properties, um, because it looks fine. I mean, it looks pretty good, even without having to add like lots of details. Although it's good, you could do that, but it just I don't know. I just feel it wasn't necessary. And what you're seeing right now, I'm just getting a wallpaper image, like with a theme of tropical wallpaper, just to give a more of a variety. So, for example, for that, I think it's pretty good to use like feel the images from the net, because you can't, if you just use the like ordinary blend, like blank diffuse materials with that. You could use that, but it looks pretty boring. And for this Chicago cityscape is the outside scene I'm putting right now. So it's a view like outside scenery view, and I thought of doing this in Photoshop, but I just decided just to do everything in Blender just to see how it looks like, and it turns out pretty good. Yeah, and I'm just like touching bits and pieces like there, and yep. So guys, this is the process of how I created the interior scene, and I hope it helped a lot of you guys who wants to start creating an interior scene with Blender, but doesn't know where to start. Of course, more improvements can be made with that Blender scene, but this video is for me to give a general idea of how I created an interior scene with Blender. Um, there are obviously a variety of more different ways and methods that different artists use to create their own interior scene, but this is just one example of how I did it. Anyways, I hope you liked it, and I hope it helped a lot of you guys, and hope to see you guys in the next video.